The moment the masked man stormed into the gas station, gun drawn and voice shaking with rage, Dylan instinctively pulled the woman beside him behind the snack aisle and shielded her with his body. But when her necklace slid out from under her coat, a delicate gold heart with the name Amelia etched across it, his world stopped. He'd carved that name himself, years ago, for the woman who vanished the day his brother died. Before we dive in, drop a comment with where you're watching from, and don't forget to hit subscribe for more videos like this. Let's begin. It was supposed to be a quick stop. Dylan's 6-year-old daughter, Ellie, had fallen asleep in the back seat after her music class. He pulled into the only gas station still open past midnight, just off Route 19, in a quiet pocket of Oregon. The place was mostly empty, lit by flickering yellow lights, with the usual sound of buzzing neon and distant crickets echoing in the dark. Inside, he grabbed milk, a snack for Ellie, and a coffee to keep himself awake for the 30-minute drive home. That's when he saw her. She stood in front of the refrigerator section, back slightly turned, struggling to reach a bottle of orange juice on the top shelf. Long coat, dark boots, a loosely tied scarf. Her fingers trembled slightly. Something about her posture felt familiar. But before Dylan could finish his thought, the door burst open behind him with a violent clang. "Everyone on the ground," barked a man with a ski mask and a handgun. "Now, nobody moves or I'll paint the walls with your brains." Time froze. The cashier dropped to the floor with a choked cry. A bag of chips exploded on impact as Dylan's knee hit the linoleum. But instead of crawling to cover, his instincts kicked in. He spun and reached for the woman, dragging her silently behind the aisle shelf, pressing her down against the floor. "Don't move," he whispered, shielding her body with his own, chest rising and falling with adrenaline. Her perfume, soft citrus, hid him like a ghost from another life. That's when her necklace slipped out from under her coat, a small golden heart-shaped locket glinting under the fluorescent lights, and carved into it, in tiny but unmistakable letters, Amelia. Dylan's breath hitched. No, it can't be. His eyes widened. That name, that necklace, that trembling breath. He had given it to her, years ago, when they were both 17, before the accident, before she disappeared. Suddenly, the robber's footsteps echoed closer. "I said empty the register, old man," the thief shouted at the clerk. "You've got 5 seconds before—" Bang! A glass bottle shattered nearby. Ellie screamed from the car outside, the echo piercing through the thick silence like a razor blade. Dylan's heart stopped. The robber turned. What the hell was that? He started toward the door. Without thinking, Dylan launched from behind the aisle. "Hey," he shouted, "leave the girl alone." The gunman froze mid-stride. Dylan kept walking, slow, steady, unarmed, hands slightly up, but his eyes, sharp, furious, locked onto the man's soul. "Touch my daughter," Dylan growled, "and I swear you won't make it out of here breathing." "Back off," the man screamed, waving the pistol. "You think I won't shoot?" But Dylan didn't stop. 10 feet away now. The robber's hand trembled. The barrel jerked. Then, thwack! A bottle flew through the air and smashed into the man's shoulder. The woman behind Dylan had thrown it. Her hands were shaking, but her face determined. The gunman turned to her in rage, and in that moment of distraction, Dylan pounced. The two crashed into a display of potato chips, fists, grunts, pain, blood. Dylan wrestled the gun free, slammed the man's wrist against a shelf edge until the weapon clattered to the ground. Then he pinned him. "Call the cops!" Dylan yelled. The cashier scrambled to the phone. The woman didn't move. She was frozen, staring not at the thief, but at Dylan. Her lips trembled. Her eyes brimmed. "Dylan?" He turned slowly. "Amelia?" The sound of sirens rose in the distance. But all Dylan could hear was the ghost of the past, breathing just inches from his chest. For a moment, the gas station vanished. The sirens faded. The robbers moaning, the cashier's panicked calls, even the blinking fluorescent lights. All of it disappeared in the static that flooded Dylan's mind. Amelia. She said his name like it hurt to speak, like her throat hadn't formed that sound in years, like every letter of it weighed 10 pounds. "Amelia?" Dylan echoed, the word dry on his tongue, like saying her name might shatter the moment or wake him from a dream. The police stormed in seconds later, guns drawn, shouting commands. The robber was cuffed and dragged out. Paramedics came to check everyone, and an officer asked Dylan what happened. But all he could do was glance back toward the woman sitting quietly on the bench outside the gas station, her hands clutched tightly in her lap. Her eyes still fixed on him. She hadn't run. She hadn't spoken since. Ellie was crying in his arms, still shaken. Dylan crouched low and pressed a kiss to her forehead. "You're okay, baby. Daddy's here," he whispered, gently rocking her. But even as he held his daughter, his eyes wandered back. Amelia, the woman who had vanished without a trace the night his brother died. The woman he had loved. The woman he had never stopped wondering about, never stopped blaming himself for losing. After things calmed down and statements were taken, an officer nodded toward her. "She says she knows you," he said. "Want to talk to her before we give her a ride?" Dylan didn't answer. He was already walking toward her. She looked up as he approached. Her eyes were wide, but her expression was unreadable. Not fear, not relief, something buried deeper. "Amelia," he said softly, hands still trembling. "Is it really you?" Her voice cracked. "I didn't think you'd recognize me." "You disappeared," he said. "I thought you were dead." Her lips parted, but she hesitated. "I almost was." A pause. Dylan stepped closer. "You're wearing it." He pointed to the necklace. She gently touched it. "I've never taken it off." He looked down, shaking his head slowly. I don't understand. After Marcus, I looked everywhere for you. No one knew, not even your parents. They just said you left. That's it." "I had to," she said, voice cracking. "I couldn't stay." "Why?" he demanded, though his voice was gentle. "You vanished the night my brother died. No note, no goodbye, nothing. I grieved you like I grieved him." She covered her face, because I saw what I wasn't supposed to, and I was scared, so scared. Dylan froze. "What did you see?" She didn't answer. They sat in silence on the bench for a few moments, lit by the glow of gas pumps and flashing red-blue lights. Finally, he spoke again. "You can't just show up like this. Not after all these years. You owe me something, Amelia. At least the truth." She looked up, eyes red. "You're right." Another pause. Then she added quietly, "Not here. I'll explain everything. But not here, please." Dylan hesitated. Everything in him screamed to push, to pry, to demand. But Ellie's head rested on his shoulder now, and she was finally asleep again. He exhaled slowly. "Where are you staying?" "I don't really have a place right now," she said. His brows furrowed. "You don't have—" She smiled weakly. "It's complicated. Everything with you always was," he muttered under his breath. But then he sighed and stood. "Come with me." Her eyes widened. "You sure?" "I have an extra room," he said simply. "Ellie's got school in the morning. You'll be safe." Amelia looked down at her hands, hesitating again. Then she nodded. As they drove through the quiet Oregon roads, Ellie snoring softly in the back seat. Dylan glanced once at the woman beside him. Same eyes, same silence, same storm behind the calm. And yet, she was different, hardened, haunted. He didn't know if he still loved her, but he did know one thing. She was hiding something. And the truth, whatever it was going to rip the past wide open. The house was small, quiet, and warm. Ellie was tucked into her bed, a nightlight humming softly beside her. Dylan stood in the hallway, watching Amelia as she sat at the edge of the guest room bed, staring at her hands like they held all the answers and none at once. "I can sleep on the couch if it's weird," she said, breaking the silence. "It's not weird," Dylan replied. "Just unexpected." She nodded slowly. "You're still kind." He leaned against the doorframe. "And you're still running." Amelia looked up sharply. He didn't flinch. "You said you saw something." "The night Marcus died." "What was it, Amelia?" "Because my brother ended up in a river with a broken spine and you vanished before the funeral." Tears welled in her eyes, but she didn't look away. "I saw who pushed him." Silence fell like a weight. Dylan's stomach twisted. "What?" "I saw it happen. Your brother didn't fall. He was pushed. And if I had stayed, I'd have been next." He stepped inside the room, voice tight. "Who? Who did it?" Her lips trembled. "You're not going to believe me. Try me." She swallowed. "It was someone in your family." Dylan blinked. "That's not funny." "I'm not joking." His fists clenched. "Who, Amelia?" She exhaled shakily. "Your uncle?" Dylan's heart hammered in his chest. "My uncle," he repeated, voice low, disbelieving. "That's impossible. Uncle Ray practically raised us after Dad left." Amelia nodded slowly. "I know. That's what made it so terrifying." She stood up now, eyes locked with his. "That night, I came over to surprise Marcus. I heard voices near the cliffs, arguing. Then I saw them, your uncle gripping Marcus by the jacket. He said something like, 'You never should have found out.' And then he pushed him." Dylan took a shaky step back. No, you're wrong. You didn't see it right." "I watched it happen, Dylan." He looked away, hands on his hips, pacing like a man about to explode. "And you didn't go to the police?" Amelia's voice cracked. "Do you think I didn't try?" "I went to the sheriff that night. But the report vanished. No one called me back. Then 2 nights later, someone tried to break into my dorm." Her hands trembled. "I got scared. I packed a bag and left. I thought if I stayed, I'd end up dead too." Dylan stopped pacing. "You think my uncle killed Marcus to hide something?" Amelia nodded. "Your brother was digging into something. Something about the land deal your uncle was brokering. He told me the numbers didn't add up, that someone was moving money through a shell company." Dylan sat down hard on the edge of the bed. Memories swirled. Marcus arguing with Uncle Ray at dinner, papers scattered across the table, whispered late-night phone calls. "I thought he was just being paranoid," Dylan whispered. "He said Ray was hiding something." Amelia stepped closer. "He was right, and your uncle knew it." Outside the window, a car rolled slowly down the dark street. Inside, Dylan looked up at her. "If what you're saying is true, then I've been living under a lie, mourning the wrong way, for years." "You still can make it right," she whispered. His jaw tightened. "And you? You ready to stop running?" Amelia's voice was quiet. "If you are." Dylan didn't sleep that night. While Ellie snored softly behind her princess-themed curtains, he sat in the kitchen with a pot of black coffee and memories that refused to leave him alone. Amelia had gone quiet again, sitting on the opposite side of the table, knees pulled up, sipping tea with shaking hands. Neither spoke for a long time. Then, Dylan finally said, "You said he was moving money. Prove it." She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a tiny USB. "I've had this for 10 years, she said. "It was in Marcus's backpack the night he died. It's encrypted, but I got it unlocked 2 years ago with help from someone I trusted." He stared. "Why didn't you go public?" "Because once I saw what was on it, I knew I was being watched. I've changed cities 5 times, Dylan. I only came back now because I couldn't run anymore." Dylan inserted the drive into his laptop. Within seconds, spreadsheets, scanned documents, shell company filings, and property transactions flashed on the screen. His Uncle Ray's name was on nearly everyone. So were offshore accounts. Millions laundered, land fraud, kickbacks, and a silent partner. The last file was a scanned ledger entry. March 18th, M's little brother getting nosy. We'll handle it. Keep Amelia out of town. Dylan's hands curled into fists. That was the week Marcus died. And now he had proof. The next morning, Dylan called his uncle. "Hey, Uncle Ray, I need to talk about Marcus." Silence. Then Ray said warmly, "Sure, come by the house." The moment Dylan stepped onto the old wooden porch, his pulse ticked up. Ray opened the door with a wide smile. "You're looking good, kid. How's Ellie?" "She's fine," Dylan said, walking in. "She almost saw me die last night in a robbery." Ray blinked. "You all right?" "Yeah. Lucky someone was there with me." Dylan turned. "You remember Amelia?" Ray's face changed, just for a second, but Dylan caught it. "Thought she vanished," Ray said casually. "She's back," Dylan replied, voice flat, with questions. Ray's smile dropped. "And I suppose you have some too." "I have more than questions," Dylan said, pulling out a folder. "I have proof, bank transfers, shell companies, and this." He tossed the scanned ledger on the table. Ray stared at it, no reaction. Then he laughed quietly. "Well, hell, you always were the slower brother." Dylan froze. Ray stepped back, slowly reaching for the drawer under the counter. "I always figured Marcus would dig too deep," Ray said. "Didn't think you'd have it in you, though." Dylan tensed. The drawer opened. "Gun." "You don't want to do this," Dylan said calmly. Ray's hand shook slightly, but he lifted the pistol. "What exactly do you think you're going to do with all that paper, huh? You think anyone's going to listen to a janitor and his runaway girlfriend?" "I think they will," came a voice from behind. Amelia stepped into the room, phone in hand. "Because this conversation's been live streaming to 4 different journalists for the past 3 minutes." Ray froze. "You little..." Dylan rushed forward. The gun clattered. They fought again, like that night in the gas station. But this time, Dylan was ready. Stronger, clearer, and angrier. Ray went down hard. Police came. Ray was arrested. The documents were handed over. Investigations were launched. And Marcus's death was reopened. Weeks later, Dylan stood at his brother's grave with Amelia and Ellie beside him. The wind rustled through the trees as sunlight filtered through the branches above. "I used to talk to him every night," Dylan whispered. "Tell him I'd find out the truth, even when I stopped believing it myself." Amelia slipped her fingers through his. "You did," she said. "You kept your promise." He looked at her. "You came back," he said. She nodded. "And I'm not going anywhere again." Ellie tugged on Dylan's sleeve. "Daddy, can we go now?" "Yeah," he said with a soft smile. "We can." He looked back once more at the grave, then turned to the future.